Hello, hello, hello. This is Dr. Troy.
And I'm Ben-Jamin Toy.
We're broadcasting from the Cohesion Culture headquarters in beautiful Charleston, South Carolina, where even when it rains, the sun still shines.
You're going to hear real-time stories from leaders confessing their most crucial or recent experiences in business.
Learn what their cost them, steps they took to fix it, and how they planned
to not do that one again.
Well, welcome, cohesive leaders, to this episode. And we have a treat for you. It is Kenya Dunn.
Hello. Hi, guys.
Hey.
And we both know you through different worlds and different environments, so that's exciting. We have a habit here where we start introducing you to our guests. We want to first know something about you that's not on your resume, not on LinkedIn profile, not on your own website. Tell us something that most folks may not know.
The thing that most folks probably don't know is that I'm a fairly new plant mom. And I became a plant mom because my children are young adults now. And so I don't know if I was looking for something else to mother, but I jumped way out too far. Being a plant mom, usually you'll start with like a plant or two, and I went and bought like 20.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, it was a great sale. And so I have learned a lot about myself through these plants and taking care of these plants, but I am a plant mom and I take it super seriously. As the seasons are changing, I'm bringing them in, I'm putting them out, I'm doing all of the things. So that's probably that is definitely something that's not on my resume.
Are all 20 still with us?
So we got about 15 still with us.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. So, most of the children still here. The
Yeah.
others, I just maybe we just weren't the two.
No, it's okay. I get the whole idea. We're sort of like, people said, well, my goodness, look how beautiful your flowers are. I know somebody comes and takes care of them because It's not me taking care of them. That's not going to happen. So
now, I've heard, though, that as we age, though, you either get into the pickleball, sourdough, or birding phase. So I think we have to probably add, because I knew some folks get into plant mode. So,
I hadn't heard that. So
depending on what, the later 40s, 50s, it's you get people are going to be into pickleball, sourdough, or birding. And for us personally, I got into pickleball. My wife got into sourdough and birding.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I didn't know that either.
Yeah. I'm obviously beyond the spectrum.
Yeah,
so.
Don't break a head.
Although I did start inviting I started putting out bird feed to draw in birds.
Yep.
I did start doing that.
We're going to learn about the whole ecosystem, and that's we literally now have grass in an area that's never had grass because of where the bird feeder was. They're dropping and cracking it up, and the squirrels are there. And now we have grass in somewhere that's never been grassed. And we tried before, and now without trying, it's happened. So
that's what's happening to that spot in my yard. That was really good. That's what's happening to that spot. And I was like, what is going on?
There you go.
Crazy.
You got that. Yeah. Now, the other thing we like to do is to separate your identity from your role. So we're going to talk about your roles in a little bit. And we already know you're a mom, so we already got that a little bit. But we want to talk about words that describe you. So think about attributes, characteristics, words that people would use to say you are, a considerate person, you're a kind person. Those are the kinds of descriptions we're looking for. So what would be some of those words that either you would use or you hope others would use, whether you're in the room or not?
Approachable, caring, powerful, influential, transparent, balanced, dynamic, fun, loving.
Oh, those are great.
Good.
Yeah, really good. Mine's approachable, believable, and compassionate. That's what I want people to know about me. I want them to know they can come to me and talk, that I'm going to be real with them about what it is, and that I'm going to care enough about whatever it is that they're telling me that I'm not just going to ignore it, but I'll do something about it.
Yeah.
I'm creative, adaptive, meaningful, and optimistic. The company core values that spell camo, but I live by them. So
I love that.
That's so funny. That's great.
All right. Next thing, roles, hats you have worn, you currently wear, roles. Go.
Oh my gosh. Um, Supervisor, manager, coach.
You can give a little more context too if you want.
Okay, so of course my career, right? I've been a supervisor. I also then promoted to manager, through the ranks, director, senior executive, the vice president, the titles and all that. Coach, because it describes the type of leader that I am, which is really around helping people to discover and bring out skills and attributes that I think are innate to them. So really, the coach. Yes, I'm a mom. I am a community leader. And so community leader means that I serve on boards, I serve on commissions around the region. Um, I'm an advocate for a lot of things that are important to me, like education, economic mobility, social justice. And I am a leadership strategist where I work with companies to really help chart out their leadership strategy that aligns with their growth plans for for the company. And I'm a friend, I'm a sister, I'm a daughter, I'm parenting my parents now, which is
Yes.
in and of itself. So I'm a daughter, sister, um, best friend of 40 something years. So those are some of the roles.
Yeah. And now you gave some great descriptive words when we first started out. And so we talk about those descriptive words who really define who you are from a personality standpoint and as an individual, right?
Right.
Because it's okay to be known as a mom and a sister and an aunt and things like that. Those are really good titles. But sometimes when people just relate to you as a manager, supervisor, executive, in those roles, they don't really get a chance to know, things about you. So, of those characteristics that you mentioned, which one or two of them are really the most important to you?
Approachable is of highest importance to me. So, they're all important, but of highest importance is approachable, because I think as a leader, I'm a leader in every facet, in every room and space that I'm in. And so I think that the greatest responsibility as a leader is to serve others and so, how do you know and get proximate to the people or the problem unless they feel that they can approach you and come to you? So approachable is very important to me. And then the other one I would say is care, because I truly believe that people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And so really making sure that, if I'm engaging with you, you are the most important person in my world in that moment, because you truly are. I care about what's standing in your way. I care about your goals and your aspirations. I care about the things that really get you going. Because again, I'm a leader who serves the people who are trusting me to walk alongside them on a journey.
Yeah, and I think those two things are very important as anyone who is thinking about leadership or wanting to advance in their career, is that as you advance and you know that you receive titles, that sometimes people can treat you like you're not approachable. I mean, in my organization, not only having a executive C-suite title, but also then adding, like MBA and then doctor to the whole program, like it all of a sudden can create a barrier, and you have to find these ways to let people know that you're really still the same person. My mom had a very lesson that she would teach me, and she says, Troy, no matter how smart you get, no matter how fancy your job gets and whatever, she says, just remember this fact. She says, you put your pants on the same way everyone else does, one leg at a time. Mm-hmm. And it was just one of those like grounding moments to help you, recognize that. And I had a friend ask me, he said, when I got my PhD, he says, are you going to make all of your employees call you doctor? I said, no, but for you, you have to call me Mr. Dr. Sir.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. Yes, absolutely. Totally agree. I remember just being a leader in corporate America, and regional matters, right? So especially here in the South, and I found it a little bit when I led in the Midwest as well. But like really wanting to call me like boss lady or, you know, whatever the role was that I played. And I'm like, hey, I'm Kenya. Like, that is who I am. Like, to the outside world, when I'm representing the organization, I wear this title and this role, but that's the only time that really matters. And so it always seemed to be a, a moment of grounding in the relationship and just kind of leveling things out. Just like, hey, like, just as much as you need me in order to be successful, I need you in order to be successful. So truly, we're like rowing in this thing together. It just means that if things don't go well, I'm gonna be the first one to get knocked off. That's what that means, right?
I think it's important to note that you mentioned a lot of hats that you wear, a lot of roles, but we're going to have those throughout our life. But those character traits and all of those roles, probably you're seen as approachable. Like,
Yes.
you wouldn't have a long-term friendship if you weren't approachable and you didn't care. Same thing with parents and kids and all these things. And so every one of those character traits, they will transcend any role you have. So
Absolutely.
listeners, that's why we harp on the idea of separating roles from your identity, and don't just say, I am the manager of this. Well, that can go, right? You know, when you put all of your eggs in that basket, only depression and things fall if you don't know how to separate who you are as a person after that.
So well, the conversation is a little more powerful if you say, I am the leader, I am the executive, I am the coach, but you change that and say, I am approachable. I'm a person who cares. I'm a person who is fun loving. I'm a person who's dynamic. All of a sudden, like, you get a much better sense of who that person is, and not so much the title. So really appreciate you diving down into that for us and really making that teachable moment for those folks who are listening. But now I think they're all probably excited about this part. And I know we are too, because I don't know exactly where it's going to go. But that is, you have prepared an experience, something that was personal to you that you would like to share with our listeners. So the floor is yours. What is your experience?
Well, I didn't have to prepare because I lived it, right? When I read the questions, I was like, my gosh, because it's one that was very, it was life-changing for me. And I don't know how you want me to just talk through the whole scenario, but I'm a storyteller. And it was, right. So I'm at the last company that I worked for, which was a wireless carrier, and they asked me to relocate and move to where I am today, which is Charleston, South Carolina, to be a leader in the call center. And the so what of it was that this call center that I was inheriting was also at the bottom of performance metrics. And so one thing about the organization I used to work for is like everything is ranked performance. It's a pay for performance company, like, and to not perform is not a good thing. And they were asking me to leave a place that was performing. So they were like, hey, you've done it over here, leave and go and recreate success here. And so I come, and very quickly, I do all the things that I know to do, right? I start out building relationships with the leaders and the representatives. I start out I always used to have this process, and I still do when I walk into new opportunities, which is I say, I'm going to have this bias for learning for the first 30 days, which means that I'm listening, I'm asking, I'm looking at data and information to just learn what makes this team tick and what works and what's in the way. So I'm doing all of the things that worked before I even came to this company. And so what I find, what starts to happen is after my bias for learning period, what I do is I tell my leadership team, like, this is what I learned, right? Like, hey, because a part of my bias for learning is also I'm meeting one-on-one with the leaders as well. And so I'm like, hey, I'm kind of reading back what I learned. And that's the opportunity for the leadership team to tell me if I learned, maybe I'm misunderstanding what I think I learned. This, like, clear it up for me. And then I use that as an opportunity to then set the vision of how we're going to move forward. And so I do all of this. I feel really good about it too. Like, all right, I understand. We're going to, like, this is where we're going. This is where we're headed. And this is going to get us off the bottom of the performance ranking. And at the time, it was like 24 call centers. We were literally ranked number 24. So you don't get any more bottom than last, right? And so one of my standouts, one of my top 5 is competitiveness. So I definitely came in with this desire and this urgency to change the performance and really create winning for everyone. I wasn't coming in wanting to create winning just for myself. I wanted this team. I believed that if they achieve success, then they will get addicted to how it feels to win, right? All of those things. And so I lay out the vision, and here's what we're going to do from a performance standpoint. This is where we're going. This is how we're going to get there. Even did a strategic planning session because I know how to do that, right? Brought in somebody to do this whole strategic planning session, and we created, the strategies, the tactics, the execution plan together. And we are off to the races. But then somewhere, performance isn't moving as fast as, and this is hindsight speaking now, as fast as I wanted it to. That's not what I was thinking at the time. It just wasn't moving. So I felt like we got to do something to move performance. And so I met with the associate director at the time and was like, no, we need to change this in the plan and this in the plan and this in the plan and this in the plan. And so I started really I started changing the execution plan that the team had agreed upon. And I started making these small adjustments. And what started to happen is performance started to move fast. So much so that within the first year of our strategic plan, by the time we hit our anniversary, we were in the top 7. So we went from 24 to 7. So what is that telling me? That's telling me, good job. It's working. And then all of a sudden, my boss calls me and says, hey, and at this particular company, you could make you can send things anonymously through our HR system. It's called the integrity line. And never have I ever gotten an integrity line complaint ever in my career or my tenure. And my boss calls and is like, hey, we got an integrity line complaint on you. And I'm like, what? Why would you get an integrity line complaint on me? The performance in the site is going up and, we're doing well. And I'm walking the floor every day and people are doing what they're supposed to do. And I'm celebrating people as we're moving this performance. I don't even understand how this is possible. And so she said, well, I'm going to fly in to talk to you about the integrity line. And I was like, one complaint, you're going to fly in? And she said, I'll show you. Right. And so she comes in, and as well as an executive within the HR organization. So they both come in and they sit down and show me this integrity line complaint. And the integrity line complaint, I'll tell you the details in a minute, but the shocking factor that made her probably fly in was that people signed their names to it. People signed their names to it. And it wasn't one person. It was people. And they were all leaders on my team. And so she said the fact that people signed their names when they didn't have to, and we would have still taken this seriously, what do you think that tells you? And basically it tells me that there's a problem. But I am still very confused. I do not understand. I am celebrating as we are winning. I am, right, I'm telling people thank you every day. I am doing all of the things. And so we spent probably 4 hours in my office going through this integrity line complaint. And the reason we spent 4 hours is because I was pissed off. And I literally was explaining away everything in we'd read a line and I said, no, let me tell you about that. No, it's this, it's that, it's this, is that, right? And I am really, they were like, she is, it's her way or no way. What do you mean it's no way? It's my way of no way. That's not true because I do this and I recognize this and that's not true. They're just complaining. They said that I don't listen. What do you mean I don't listen? Yes, I do, because I do this, I do that, I do this, right? So I'm going on this journey of I am stating my case in front of the judge. This is lies, right? And I am forever grateful for my leader. She told the HR leader to leave the room. And she looked at me and she said, she would always, when I knew she was serious, she would say, Missy. And so she said, Missy. And so I knew that I had said something wrong. And she said, let me tell you something and listen to me good. She said, you can have all the best intentions in the world. And I don't doubt that the way you've run things, you had great intentions. She said, but if your leadership is landing wrong on your people and they holler, it is your responsibility to fix it, to figure out where you've gone wrong and to correct it. And I'm still not able to really humble myself enough. I'm offended. Like, I realized that I was offended by the fact that members of the team would say these things about me. I moved past the fact that they wrote the integrity line complaint. It was the content in it of what they were saying about me. I was super offended because I'm approachable, I'm caring, I'm loving, I'm, all of these things. Like, what do you mean? And what I learned through this experience was a couple of things. And so she literally had to almost like, I was like, I don't know what to do. Because she was like, you have to fix it. I said, well, I don't know what to do because I'm doing everything that I know to do. And I'm recognizing people and I'm still really defensive. And she said, well, I'm going to give you a minute to think about it. And I'm not leaving until tomorrow. So I'll be back in the morning. And I went home very frustrated. And I called a mentor and I told my mentor outside of the company what I was going through. And he's listening to me and I'm doing the whole defensive thing, right? And he just cuts me off. He says, you need to apologize. And I was like, apologize for what? Like, you apologize when you did something wrong. I didn't do anything wrong. He said, I think you should apologize. He said, because what it sounds like to me is you were well intended, but your leadership was falling on them very wrong. And you need to figure out the things that are true about your approach to leadership. And so we went through each of the, what I called accusations. I was still I had a hard time in this moment, these accusations that I didn't listen. And then he said, tell me about your approach to getting feedback. And when you made these changes to the plan, did you go and get feedback? Did you get buy-in? Did you blah, blah, blah? And I was like, well, I did. I said, but they didn't see where I was coming from. And so I'm a leader, right? I'm leading the center. And so I just had to make a decision because I know it's the right thing. And clearly it is because look at the results. And so he said, he talked to me about having a committed team versus a compliant team. He said, do you want a team that's committed to the vision you are putting out there, or do you want a team that is compliant? Because what it sounds like is they were just compliant. They were like, okay, she the boss. This is what she wants us to do. This is what we're going to do. And he said, in the success that you're seeing, because at the time the ranking had moved up in the top 7, but it only had been for 2 months. And he said, I promise you, if you don't go back and reset this, that's not sustained success that you're seeing. He said, it's just a wave because compliance is not, you don't get sustained success in compliance, right? And so I actually went back and I talked to my boss and I said, I cried. I was so frustrated. I went through the whole thing that night. And I said, because I really it broke my heart that the team really just saw me that way. And so I genuinely wanted the team to know who I am as a person and who I am as a leader. And it is this person that is approachable and that cares about their success and that really wants them to win, not on my account because I want to win, but because I want them to believe in themselves and what we can create together. And so I actually went back and I told my boss, I said, I'm going to apologize. I need to apologize. And I need to tell them that I heard them, right? And I also need to ask their permission if we can start over. And if we can do this together again together. And so that's what I did. I called a team meeting with everyone. I didn't call out the people because, of course, I think it was like 42 leaders, but it was like 12 leaders who signed the integrity line complaint. I didn't talk to them individually. I addressed the entire team because truth of the matter is, or how I saw it was, they were just the 12 brave ones, probably representing the thoughts and experiences of the rest. So it's like, and once I was able to get through with my coach, with my mentor, like really getting underneath, well-intended, really bad approach. Well-intended, I really got ahead of my skis because I let performance supersede people. And because I did that, I owed all of them an apology for that. Because one, it's incongruent with the commitment that I made to them as a team. It's also incongruent with who I am as a person. And so I apologized to the entire team, and I told them what I read back. Here's what I heard. And I made a list of the top 10 things that I drew from the note, that I'm not listening to you all, that I'm making you all feel like it is my way or the highway, that I am not taking into consideration that you all have multiple things on your plate juggling at one time. So when I'm knee jerking, that because it literally was in the letter that she knee jerks us. It's like, so when I'm knee jerking you all, I'm not helpful. I'm causing more harm. So I literally went down everything so that they knew that I took it serious, and that I literally read it. And I said, and I came to say that I am so sorry. I apologize, and I want to ask for your forgiveness, and not just your forgiveness for the sake of forgiveness, but I want to do it again. Like, we were still relatively new in our relationship. And we got, like, we're getting off to a really bad start, all on my account. And so I want you to think about it, and I want you to tell me if I get a do-over, because I promise you, if I get a do-over, this conversation won't happen again. And so long of the short is, yeah, they gave me a do-over, and I learned a lot about when pressure, because I worked in an environment that's highly competitive. The market is saturated. So it's always something coming down from on high to drive performance. You got to get this, right? And I started to see my real role. And my real role, I would always think about it as in Spider-Man. So if you think about what Spider-Man does when danger is coming, right? Spider-Man casts the web, and the web, he keeps all the harm from the people in the web. And so I started to realize, like, when all that stuff is coming down, like, I need to become Spider-Man to, like, make sure that does not get in the way of what I'm asking people to do, especially if it's coming from me. And so, the rest is history. When we went on to become the #1 call center, and we were #1 for years in a row, so much so that the company invested. It's the only, still, I've been gone for a long time. It's still considered the only super center within the organization. So they invested a ton of money, double the jobs in the area, because of what this team and this group of leaders were able to create. And several of those leaders have gone on, and they're running other call centers across the country. And so the story turns out good, but it took a lot. It took me to take full ownership of, even though I was well intended, even though I saw glimpses that what I had put in place was working, it took a lot of humility on my part to say, but it doesn't matter. Your leadership, the way your leadership falls on people matters. And you need to always have your ear to the street of that reality. And that's the thing that I took with me from that assignment on, is how do you know how your leadership is falling on others? How do you assess how your leadership is falling on others? And it's in the spoken. So, you have your employee satisfaction surveys, you have your focus groups and things like that. But the whispers of the things that aren't appearing in those formal ways tend to really tell you how your leadership is falling on people. And so that became a part of the way that I lead, is that I built in observation. And I just was curious of how is my leadership falling, especially in tense times when I knew the organization or it was a really tensed moment. I became that much more. A lot of my role became like set direction, check in, set direction, check in, listen. How's the listening? And it was all because I never wanted my leadership to fall on people that way again, so much so that they felt they couldn't even come to me directly, that they had to go another route. So that's my story.
I tell you what, this was an incredible story. I mean, there is so much to unpack that would take us days to do, but anyone who has a chance to listen to this or will listen to this will get some very key pieces from it. So I just a high level recap, and that is, it kind of reminds me a little bit of a story. I started out in theater. And so I kind of use this little example to remind me of leadership as well, which really just dovetails so nicely with the story that you provided. And in acting, it was basically you got in front of your peers and you did a performance, and then they would rate you or they would comment on you. And so the instructor would then say, well, okay, so how did he do? How was this feeling? How was this whatever? And I got like such low marks. I'm thinking to myself, I gave an Academy Award presentation here, folks. And what do you mean I didn't do very well? And the bottom line message to me was, it doesn't matter what you think you are emoting to the audience, but if they're not getting it, you're not doing your job.
Absolutely.
And I have applied that to leadership in the same way that you just talked about it, is that you can think you're doing super, but if it's not resonating with the people that you're working with, then it's not as super a job as you thought it was. And the things that you talked about, like getting feedback, making sure that people felt like they were seen and heard. And the idea about intentions, like you had good intentions, but its intentionality is what you were being rated on, not the good intentions, but the intentionality. And the intentionality of, this was our plan, but now you made it your plan. So therefore it became your success, not our success anymore. Gosh, this is so rich. I can't stand it.
And it had me like, I've replayed. That's why I said I didn't have to even, like, when I saw your questions, I was like, oh, I already know what I'm going to talk about, because it continued. And I think that this is another thing that I'd love to just kind of leave in this space, is that was such a rich experience for me. And it tops my top 5 list of difficult leadership moments, because boy, you talk about humble pie, to have to eat, to go and stand in front of a room of people and say, I'm sorry, I made a mistake.
Yeah.
But that experience kept growing me years after I had gone past that. And what I mean by that is it helped me to continue to assess, am I really serving as a leader? Am I really serving people and the mission and helping people? Am I really? So it just continued to, I don't know if it was the sting of it, but like it never left me, and it continued to teach me as I led bigger teams. Because now I got to go across 14 states and make 14 states seem like one team, and move performance of 14 states of, nearly 10,000 people now. And like, how do I do this and still make sure that I'm operating in the integrity? And that's something that I teach as a leader. Like I would always tell my leaders, like, you have to have the integrity of who you say you are as a leader is always put to the test. And for me, that scenario just continued to be, it continued to unfold for me.
And I love how we go back to the scenario of, because we can perform poorly in a role, right? So in this case, while one metric may have looked good, you got up to 7th place, right? But on the overall metric of leadership or whatnot, your team didn't like you, right? Or they didn't like the direction. It may not have been personal, but it felt pretty personal. Mm-hmm. But also, if you made it personal, they took it that way.
But when they sign their name to something, it does make it personal.
So it does make it personal. They took great ownership of it.
Yeah.
But to go back to the sense of, that role, that action you were taking was not to the best of your ability at the time, but it wasn't who you were. And you're like, gosh darn it, people like me. I'm approachable and I'm caring. So for you to truly be that, you had to do what you did on the back end,
That's
right?
right.
And that's where we have all these roles and we're wearing all these different hats, and we can be a poor parent one weekend or one something. Doesn't change you think you get hopefully a do-over, but it comes down to, do you have enough of that to show the others that that's truly how you are? And
Absolutely.
luckily, and they gave you a second chance, and they gave you a do-over, and it worked well for a lot of folks. But the separation of that is, again, the tension is, I want people to know this. Well, why aren't people seeing me as that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And why do outsiders see you as kind, but maybe not your inner circle, right? Well, what is it that you're doing? Are you sarcastic to them? Do you give them a different version of you that you want the outsiders to see? So
yeah.
What did this cost you? So that mistake, we dove in a little bit, but I truly want to go into the cost. So what did it cost you financially, personally, emotionally? What did this experience cost you?
It cost me, the immediate cost was, it cost me the confidence of my leader. Because at the time my leader was she's got it right, and that was important to me to have the confidence of my leader. And so the first thing it cost me was my leader's confidence. And how do I know that is because then for the next like 3 months she would make frequent visits to my team and to my call center to observe and to check in with people and to make sure that things were going well. So that was a huge cost to me. The other was that it actually cost me some momentum within building a winning culture within the center, right? Because I had to restart building of relationship and trust with the team. And so it cost me momentum. We could have moved sooner, faster, but we had to kind of start at square one. And no matter what, if the results fail, you can't look at that, Kenya, because right now you're back at building trust with your team. So it costs us some momentum. And then it didn't cost me anything like financially, as far as like I didn't lose a check or anything like that. But the thing that I was just talking to somebody about was it cost me some confidence for a little while. Yeah. And losing confidence when you are responsible for such a large group of people can have some residual costs as well. So it cost me personal confidence because I thought that I knew that I was doing all of the right things. And so I actually ended up having to ask for an executive coach and saying like, I really need someone to work alongside of me because I thought everything that my approach was right. And clearly it came back to bite me. So those are the three things that I would say it cost me.
It's really great. And I think the other thing that your story did is it once again reinforced the reason why we talk about cohesion, cohesive leaders, and doing that, because what the employees wanted was a boss who made them feel like they belonged and were included. And it started out that way, but then it went awry, right? And then they want to make sure that their work is valued and that it's meaningful, that it has purpose, and therefore their passion can then be exercised, can be celebrated through the fact that they have aligned their purpose and their meaningful work together. And then lastly, through the opportunity for these mutual commitments, which are working toward these desired outcomes, they had to be needed and trusted. Mm-hmm. So needed is separate from my belonging and inclusion. Needed is, it's a different sensation about that. And to be trusted that I can tell the truth and that I will do my job, that you will trust me enough to do my job. It may not have been working at the moment, but man, if you had just given me a couple of more weeks, I could have shown you, or you didn't even ask me what it was that I could be doing to actually doing that, to involve them. And that's what you embodied in your story, was reminding folks that do cohesion as leaders. If you want to advance in the organization, you want to develop yourself, think about how you include your boss or how you include others around you into whatever it is that you're working on, and making sure that people feel valued. So it's really needed, valued, and trusted are like the most important things for employees to feel. And as a leader, it is our job to make sure that that happens. And we can't just assume that all the wonderful things that we think of are going to happen correctly without feedback. And I just really commend you for getting the feedback and then getting the help, recognizing that although you were a little hurt from that from the beginning, that you rose above that hurt, that hurt didn't stop you. It didn't ground you or tether you to really the excellence where you can be and the excellence where you and your team got to. It was just totally brilliant.
It's because my grandmother, I know you talked about your mom. My grandmother would always say, like, everybody's good when it's all good.
Mm-hmm.
But when it's not all good, everybody's not good. The real truth of who you are shows itself in your toughest moments.
Yes.
And so she would always say that, like, to all 37 of us. That's how many grandkids she had. Like, she would always say that. And, and we try to like blame each other and all this kind of stuff. And it was just like in that moment, I was like, like, what I'm learning in this moment is that when I'm under pressure, how I show up versus when I'm not under pressure are not the same. And so now I got a window seat into how I'm showing up when I'm under pressure. And that's my growth opportunity. And so I really just took it as a moment to sharpen my skills, to expand my capacity, and to prepare for what I aspired to do, which was to grow my leadership, to grow in the organization, and to lead more people, which I ultimately did. But again, like, if I'm going to grow in the organization, pressure is waiting on you at the top. Can't drive you people crazy on the process. So what are you learning about the way that you lead? So that was the gift of that experience for me.
A lot of folks say those situations are character building, and I disagree. I think they're character revealing. Your character already had to be established, right? That wasn't a building phase. That was a revealing phase. But I do want to go back to when you said the cost of time and momentum, and say that was not a cost, but more of an investment, because if you had the momentum in the direction you were going in the wrong direction. So you had to correct course to go the correct. So you could have kept on going faster, but it would have been the firework and not the candle that it ended up being, that burned bright and long.
Facts. So, very true. Very true.
And recognizing that you could recover from it, because not many people could. Many people could have been crushed under that and said, I'll just go somewhere else who will appreciate me. And I won't really look into it to see, is there any truth in any of this? I'm just going to, live by the fact that I know what was right. I know what it is. And instead, really humbling oneself to really take a step back. And again, all those great things. So Kenya, thank you so much for that beautiful story of leadership that you shared. Oh my gosh, really great.
Really good.
Really awesome. So if folks would like to reach out to you for that community involvement and those other things that you are really so good at, how would people reach out and connect with you?
The best way to reach out to me is actually through LinkedIn. So I'm Kenya S. Dunn on LinkedIn. I also have a website, www.powertribecommunity.com. But the best way is to find me on LinkedIn.
Okay. And that's Kenya as in the country and Dunn as in D-U-N-N.
Correct.
Awesome.
Okay, good. So here we go. We're just going to wrap up with today. Just like this is a mantra that we use as we close out all of our Cohesion Culture programs, and it is that you don't have to know everything.
Just need to be teachable.
Yeah.